Hey guys, it's Cody Winget here, PDGA 49371, Team Prodigy member, and we're here with Disc Golf Examiner to film my In the Bag. First thing we'll start out with is my putters, my putting putters. I putt with 350G PA3s. I like the 350 plastic because it has a little bit more stiffness than the 300 plastic. Big shout out to Derek Fell with the sick birdie stamped bottom PA3s. Big fan of them. Thanks. Next we'll move to my main approach disc, and that is the Seppo Paiu PA1 in the Spectrum plastic. I like the stability of it. I can throw it on a hyzer, know it's going to hyzer. I can throw it flat and it's going to finish left. Big fan of it. I can usually use it for touch-up shots with flick. And then I carry 3 different types of throwing putters as well. My PA4 I use specifically for hyzer flip to turnover shots or just dead straight down the pipe shots. My PA3 in the 350G plastic I use for hyzer flip shots that I just want to just rip on. I can trust it that it's going to stay straight with a lot of power and a lot of torque. And then a new addition to my bag this year, Prodigy came out with the Ace line in the P Model S. I'm testing it out in my bag. I'm really liking it. It's a point and shoot disc. You know, I can put a lot of power on it and it just stays dead straight. I'm really liking it so far. So those are my putters. Moving along next, I carry 3 approach discs. I carry 2 A2s. This one is the 400 plastic glow A2. It is super beefy, super overstable. If I need something that I know is going to finish, I usually throw it with a flick, so I want it to finish to the right with a little skip. I'm always going to be reaching for this A2. It's so overstable. I don't know if I've thrown a more overstable approach disc than this. It's super overstable. Then I have its little brother, another 400 A2. It's a little bit more straight. I can use it for more like flex shots, where I can throw it on a little ante, it'll ride the ante, and then finish to the right at the end, throwing it with a forehand. And then I also carry an A3. This is where I want to throw it hard and flat, and I know it's just going to go straight with just a little finish to the right at the end, throwing with a forehand. Whenever I use it for backhand shots, it's usually, I can get a little skip out of it, so I can control the speed and the distance with this disc more than the A2s, so I kind of like using that for some backhand approach shots depending on the location of the basket. Moving along next to my mid-ranges, I carry 2 M4s. This is the fader plastic. It's a 400G M4. This is more of my understable M4, where I can throw it on a hyzer, it'll flip up and then turn over pretty reliably. It's definitely more understable than this one right here. This is the another 400G M4. This one was given to me by Sam Castiglione, another Team Prodigy member, hooking me up whenever I first got on the team. This one is money. I can throw it on a hyzer, it flips up to flat and just goes dead straight. If I throw it flat, I know I can get it to turn over. It's a super manipulative disc. I really like it in my bag. It's probably one of my favorites. Next up is the MX3, new release from last year. This is probably my go-to mid-range. I like throwing it dead flat, just hard as I can, and I know it's just going to go dead straight. It's definitely a great new addition to Prodigy's lineup from last year. I love it a lot. I can throw it on any type of line, hyzers, anhyzers, flat. It's really great for shaping shots. Pick one up. Next up, we'll move to the fairways. I don't carry too many of the fairway drivers, but I do carry an F5 It's a great woods disc. I like throwing it on hyzer flips. As you can tell, I like throwing hyzer flips a lot. You know, you get a lot of control out of it. So I like throwing the F5 for those controlled wood shots, high braking and hyzer shots. Very controllable disc, like that one a lot. Another fairway disc that I carry is the F7. I use this exclusively for rollers. I don't really throw it. Sometimes I'll throw it for like unique shots where I'll have to throw it on a hyzer and have a late turn. But I mostly throw this for rollers and you know, specialty shots. Moving along next, I carry a couple H3 V2s. These are my straight hybrid discs. I can get a lot of distance out of them. The 400 plastic is more my hyzer flip to straight, and then sometimes turn over if I can get enough oomph on it. And then I also have a team stamped 400 plastic H3 V2. This one's a little bit more overstable. I know if I rip on it flat, it's gonna have a slight hyzer at the end of the flight. I also carry an H4 V2, and this is more of hyzer flip to turnover shots, or just straight and hyzer shots. It's pretty understable. If you have lower arm speed, it's great for, you know, those turnover shots, something you can control. I like this one a lot. And as you can tell, we're going up in stability. So next, we're gonna talk about the H1 V2. This one is mostly my forehand disc. Whenever I want to go about 300 feet. It's pretty overstable. I can rip on it flat, and it's going to hyzer out at the end pretty much every time. I also use this sometimes for forehand rollers. And then its bigger brother, the H1 750. This thing is a pig. I couldn't try to turn this thing over if I wanted to. It's so overstable. I use it for a lot of skip shots. I use it for forehand rollers where I just need it to just stand up and just boogie down the fairway. This thing is a monster. If you guys into these OG ones, they're super overstable. Moving to the drivers, I carry a D4. This thing's got sneaky distance to it. I can throw it on a super hyzer angle. It's gonna flip up, turn over, and then just flex back a little bit at the end. If I throw it flat, it's gonna turn over and be an anhyzer disc. I also occasionally use it for distance roller shots. Next up, I carry an X3. This disc is probably my most controllable distance driver. I rely on this disc a lot. I throw it on hyzer flips. I throw it on flat to turnover shots. I throw it on pushing hyzer shots. This is probably my most comfort disc in my bag. I also carry a D6. The D6 is for mostly rollers, where I want to get a lot of distance. I'll throw it on a cut line. It'll ride and then stand up and then eventually turn over at the very end. Probably my farthest throwing roller disc. Next up, I carry two D2 Maxes. This D2 Max bombs. I can throw it on a hyzer. It's going to do a big S shot and then finish relatively straight to where I threw it from. I can throw this on like high and hyzer shots and know that it's going to flex out. And this D2 Max is probably just a little bit more overstable. I know I can rip on it flat. It's going to flex just a little bit and then hyzer out at the finish. Next up, I carry a D3 Max. This disc is pretty point and shoot for me. I like throwing it dead flat, hard as I can, and I know it's just going to go pretty straight for me. And then we have the D2 in the 400G plastic. This thing is pretty stable. I know that I can throw this really hard, really flat. It's going to go straight for a long while and then have a big hard flare at the end. It's a great disc. The Milky White runs are the ones that I typically tend to like. They just seem to be a little bit more overstable than your typical D2s. They're money. So if you have any, let me know. And then lastly, I carry a 400 X2. This is probably my most overstable distance driver. I know that I can power on it. It's always going to hyzer out. Super overstable. I know I can throw it on anhyzers that are going to flex out 100% of the time. I'll throw it for forehand shots, occasionally forehand rollers. This thing's awesome. I really like it. So check it out. A couple other things that I carry with my bag. This is a Prodigy BP1 V2. I always carry a water bottle. I always like having like a snack or something like that along the way for my rounds. Something I've been drinking a lot lately is the Soylents. They're pretty meal replacement type drinks. They're pretty tasty, so that's what I've been leaning on lately. Sometimes I'll carry nuts or other things like that. Then I carry a couple birdie bags, whatever you want to call them. I have a whale sack, and then this other one. I like the ones with like the rocks in it more than the resin stuff. Always carry a towel, and then typically carry a couple minis, just in case you lose them along the way, and then some pencils down here at the bottom. So that's my in the bag. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Check out some Prodigy discs along the way. Throw Prodigy, and thanks to my sponsors, Prodigy Disc, and thanks for Disc Golf Examiner for taking the time to film the video.